before you met me, you were 36 when I met you.
Yeah.
And you had only had 2 orgasms, you said, up until that time, right? But now, what? What's so funny? What's so funny?
Okay.
But now you have it regularly, right?
I have it every day.
But that's okay. So it's good though, right?
You moved to Southeast Asia for the tropical paradise and low cost of living. But there's something happening beneath the surface that no one warned you about, and you're part of it whether you realize it or not. Every time you shake your head at the inefficient government office, roll your eyes at Filipino time, or wonder why things just don't work properly here, you're doing something that's been happening in this archipelago for over 400 years. The Spanish did it. The Americans did it. And now it's expat retirees' turn. Here's what's really happening. You didn't just move to a cheaper country with great weather. You became the latest chapter in the Philippines' colonial story. Except this time, there are no conquistadors or military bases. Just retirement visas and Facebook expat groups. But here's the twist that changes everything about how you see your new home. Those flaws you want to fix? The bureaucracy that makes no sense? The relaxed attitude toward time that drives you crazy? They're not bugs in the system. They're features, survival adaptations created by the same historical forces that gave you the Filipino warmth and hospitality you fell in love with. You can't have one without the other. And once you understand why, everything about living here starts to make sense.
Then, what else? Decrease.
Read it.
Here,
Pick it up.
Yeah, here. Decrease depression and anxiety, increase libido, better immune system, better heart health.
The Spanish said, "Your religion is wrong. Here's the right way to worship." The Americans said, "Your government is wrong. Here's the right way to organize society." Modern influencers, and in this case, the Roach says, "Your lifestyle is wrong. Here's the right way to live." Here's what makes digital colonialism more insidious than its predecessors. It comes disguised as helpful content. It's not imposed by force, it's voluntarily consumed. It doesn't feel like oppression, it feels like education. Here's what I want you to consider. What happens to a culture when an entire generation grows up believing that foreign perspectives about their homeland are more valuable than local knowledge? What happens when young people learn to see their own country primarily through the lens of whether it's good enough for foreign visitors? What happens when the algorithm consistently rewards content that treats your homeland as a backdrop for other people's lifestyle experiments?
And, by me being in the Philippines, whenever you say sex in the Philippines in the same sentence, it's controversial. And that's because it's a religious country.
Let us get this fact straight. The Spanish colonial period fundamentally transformed Filipino attitudes toward sexuality through the aggressive imposition of Catholic moral code sexuality in the Philippines. This wasn't just religious conversion, it was cultural restructuring designed to create colonial subjects who would be easier to control. The Spanish introduced the concept that sexuality was inherently private, shameful, and not suitable for public discussion, a stark contrast to indigenous societies where community elders often provided sexual education. The reluctance to discuss sex openly in Filipino society isn't just religious conservatism. It's a complex cultural adaptation that serves multiple social functions while managing the psychological legacy of colonization. Understanding this context helps explain why simple appeals to modernization or sexual liberation often fail to resonate with Filipino audiences who see sexual discretion as cultural integrity rather than repression. This cultural framework also explains why sex education initiatives are most successful when they work within Filipino cultural values rather than against them, emphasizing family protection, community health, and cultural wisdom rather than individual sexual freedom. So, when people say Filipinos should be more open about sex, many Filipino families hear Filipinos should act less Filipino, which is why they resist the idea. It's like how every family has different rules about what's okay to talk about at the dinner table. For many Filipino families, this topic is on the not at dinner list, and they see that as protecting their family values, not hiding from the truth.
Of sex tourism, people get that wrong. Do men come over here to have sex? Yeah. Are foreigners and Filipinos having sex over here? Absolutely. Grown, consenting adults. But to label the Philippines a sex tourist destination, you don't know what sex tourism is. All you have to do is go to Thailand.
Sex tourism, or the best way to describe it, which is prostitution, is illegal in the Philippines, although somewhat tolerated among society, with law enforcement being rare with regards to sex workers. Understanding towards the concept of sex tourism is popular in the Philippines based on literatures, some of which even considered the country as one of most popular in terms of the said practice. Survey results shows people believe that prostitution is the closest definition for sex tourism. In fact, sex tourism is a growing sub-industry of tourism. So, is the Philippines considered a popular destination for sex tourism? The short answer is yes, and this is due to the lack of regulation. People, although a little bit confused in terms of law implementation, are still aware of the illegality of this practice, yet the lack of law enforcement and proper regulation makes Philippines a popular destination for those who know where to look and who to ask. To say that it doesn't exist is overlooking the problems that are within or are a result of this industry, such as drugs and human trafficking. The influencer economy is rewriting how people, especially the younger generation, see their own countries. The question is whether we're going to spam their country as keywords unconsciously, or whether we're going to start consuming and dishing out content more thoughtfully and responsibly. Every day, millions of people across two very different audiences scroll through the same content created by foreign influencers living in Southeast Asia. For international viewers, the videos look like harmless travel inspiration. Day in my life in Bali, why I left London for Bangkok, living like a local in the Philippines. For Southeast Asian viewers, these same videos hit differently. They're watching foreigners explain their own countries back to them, often getting basic facts wrong, mispronouncing place names, and making sweeping cultural generalizations based on a few months of experience. But here's what neither audience realizes. There's a pattern emerging in this content that's quietly reshaping how young locals view their own homes, their own culture, their own worth. The international audience sees exotic destinations, budget-friendly lifestyles, and authentic cultural insights from someone who gets it. The local audience sees their homeland being reduced to a cheap backdrop for someone else's lifestyle content, their culture being explained by outsiders who often fundamentally misunderstand it, and their economic reality being turned into someone else's digital nomad paradise. What both audiences miss is the psychological damage this dynamic creates. Damage that will last for generations.
Yes. But see, the thing about me, I'm an adult, and we had this conversation. I just told her, I said, look, when I first started talking to her, before we ever did anything, before we ever even decided to meet, I said, I've got a high sex drive, right? Mm-hmm. And, you know, if you can't handle that, then you probably don't want to fool with me.
That you want it, you know, because sometimes just like what happened to me the other day, that I don't feel better, then all I want is just for one night, because I'm not feeling better, you know.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah. You know, you're not 100% all the time, but normally,
especially when we have it, our menstruation is in there, everything is changed, our hormonal imbalances, you know, we're not in the mood.
But I mean, weeks.
Ignorance is not a tradition. It is a tool of oppression disguised as morality. If progress is sought, then there must be a willingness to confront these contradictions and demand better for future generations. After all, real empowerment isn't just about embracing change. It is about ensuring that the next generation won't have to fight the same battles today.